The Fantasy Edge with Richard Savill and Dennis Sosic.
Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Edge. I am Richard Savill of FantasySixPack.net, and joining me shortly is Ryan Kirksey. I hope I got the name right. I think I do. Dennis is off this week, so he'll be taking over the co-host duties for today. Dennis was going to be here, and it would have been all three of us, but Ryan is just going to be here. It'll be just us two. And Ryan, how's it going, man?
It's going great. I'm hoping for a good game tonight. Try to get some of the stench of yesterday off. That was an interesting slate of games we had, but I'm ready to dive into it.
I've got three players on tonight that are playing. Unfortunately, I cannot. I had to take David Montgomery out of IR, but I can't put him into the slot. So I'm kind of hoping that Khalil Herbert takes most of the carries, but I don't think so. I'm losing. I'm going to probably lose anyway, so I'm not too bothered about it. So
I have one matchup that I won a half-point PPR league where I won 66-44. That gives you the indication of how yesterday.
Ooh, 66-44, and this is half
Brutal.
PPR, right?
Yeah, with bonuses for yardage, so it was just brutal yesterday.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't very good. Let's get straight up into the news. Chase Edmonds sprained ankle. James Conner, but he blew it up, and as did the Cardinals and Colt McCoy. I was quite impressed, Ryan, but Chase Edmonds is out, so James Conner, obviously, he's big stuff depending on how long Chase Edmonds is out.
Yeah, I was just looking at some of the seasonal info on Conner. It looks like he's all the way up to running back 8 on the year now. Of course, a lot of that is from yesterday's game, but he has had so much touchdown equity even before yesterday. It's been amazing to see what he's been able to do at the goal line. But the Conner thing doesn't shock me as much as how Colt McCoy led them to such a huge victory. I mean, I'm a Texas guy, so we sort of idolize Colt McCoy a little bit, but he's never been that good of an NFL quarterback. And they didn't miss a beat being down two of their best offensive players.
Yeah, some of the commentators who were I can't remember who they were, but they did comment that Colt McCoy was having the look of Kyler Murray. Well, I mean, I guess he did. I guess he kind of looked like Kyler Murray. Some of the plays, like, he was running those RPOs like he was born to it. That's how.
He's just been, he's one of these career backup quarterbacks. He is consistent. He will get the job done. He will manage the game for you. But I'm of the opinion they just can't go too long without Kyler being on the sidelines. Cole won't be able to do it in the long term.
Right. No, he won't. I don't think so. Moving right along, Titans backfield. So my impressions of this, of what happened last night on Sunday night. I'm not too, I don't know, for me, I think Adrian Peterson looked a little slow, and so I'm not so sure that I'm getting all these, I think we're getting, you hear that beep? Hang on, I'm going to pause the video for a second. Just pause. Yeah, so we'll have to see if Kyler Murray will be back in next week. But no harm to your Cardinals, I would say, Ryan.
No, it was a new look offense of sorts without Kyler, without Chase after I think one play, without Hopkins, but Christian Kirk got it done. Rondale Moore had several targets, and obviously Connor's going to be, if he's not already picked up in your league already, he's going to be the hottest guy to add. But they just seem to have so many offensive weapons and add Ertz to the mix now that they just didn't seem to miss a beat.
No. But who is missing a beat is Sam Darnold, and the Panthers head coach Matt Rule said Sam Darnold will have an MRI on his shoulders. I don't think he's going to last in Carolina, Ryan. I think they want to get rid of him. I think they will. I think he's going to be moved on from. This can't go on.
This is one of these. I don't even want to call it one of these merciful injuries where the team is spared from having to play him. If he has a hurt shoulder, fantasy managers don't have to worry about him anymore. They can see if they've actually got anything with PJ Walker, and you've got to know that their skill position players are going to be frustrated with how Darnold's playing.
You think it'd be? Well, it can't be any worse. I mean,
it can't be worse.
Yeah. Well, there's, this league is always short on decent backups. I don't know what it is. There's so few good quarterbacks that can just step in. And, you looked at Geno Smith and, he had an okay game the week before the bye for the Seahawks, and then we had the big, what was it? Week 8 was the week of the backup, and they all did quite well. I think the only backup right now that's really, worth a salt, I guess, is, Colt McCoy, who we just talked about, but even Mike White maybe might be okay. But we'll have to see. One week does not make a season. And we just mentioned Geno Smith, so Russell Wilson will be cleared to week 10. Obviously, Ryan, this is great for Russell Wilson owners and, of course, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. So,
each of those guys had their weeks with Geno Smith. But there's just no way that Smith is going to be able to sustain both of those guys as top 24 wide receivers. Russell Wilson's the only guy that's going to be able to do that. Both of them have been so inconsistent. I bet they just can't wait for Wilson to get back under center. I know fantasy managers feel the same way.
Yeah, it will be good. The big talk this week, of course, is Odell Beckham. Now, just in the recent news, the Saints have declined. They can't afford the cap space for him. A lot of people were thinking he would go to the Saints. But, and I just read in the news that the Lions have declined as well. They're not interested. So, where does he go? Or where do we put him? Where can he go? He can't go to the Raiders, right?
He's not going to go to the Raiders now that they've locked in on Desean Jackson. I can't remember how substantial this rumor was, but I saw somebody reporting that the Giants might try to put a bid in on him. I just don't know who wants this headache. That there have been multiple teams that have come out today and said they are not, for either personnel reasons or financial reasons or just a myriad other reasons, not going to put in a bid on Odell. And frankly, I don't blame him. So I don't know where he ends up. It'll be somewhere, but somebody's going to have to put up with sort of the antics to be able to try to fit him into whatever offensive scheme they have. Yeah,
I'm not sure about how the contract works or whether a team can make a deal for restructuring his contract, because they gotta pick up some of the contract if he is signed, doesn't it? I'm not sure how it works after the waiver window, but nobody rushed out. I don't think anybody's rushing out to get him.
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting thing is, do we find out tomorrow morning that anyone placed a claim? And so if they did, then they're obviously going to have to pick up some of that, rework it a little bit. But if not, then he'll be free to sign with anyone for whatever prorated 1-year deal they want to give him.
Yeah. So, but I think there's this feeling that he's kind of one of these washed up divas right now. But I think there was no connection there with Baker Mayfield, and maybe he can have it. But I don't know. The eye test for me doesn't really scream a lot of. His dad might have different views on that, but I'm not seeing a lot of. I'm not seeing quite the same Odell Beckham as we saw with the Giants. In fact, since he's left the Giants, I've not seen really the Odell Beckham.
No, and at some point you'd have to think, okay, well, that's on the receiver. We thought for a period of time that it was just Baker. It was no connection there, and there may not have been, but it's at some point you think, okay, if there was something there, if the talent was the same it was all those those good years for the Giants, we would have been able to make something happen in Cleveland, and they just never could.
Right. Moving right along, this is not exactly fantasy related, but I always put in a little bit of news that is kind of interesting for the show. And this is Mac Jones. Now, I don't know if you saw this clip of that he grabbed and twisted the ankle of Panthers defensive end Brian Burns after a sack. I'll get you as a fumble. It looks like he grabs his leg and twists it, but I think he was just trying to tackle him because he was going for the ball or something. It's kind of a desperation, like, oh, he's going to try and, get the fumble. I don't know, but the league's still going to investigate the play, and Mac Jones could get fined or even, well, it won't be suspended or anything, but I thought it was kind of...
That's the funny thing is you used to see guys like Ndamukong Suh do these exact same things, and you could tell that those were intentional. I don't really know intent on this play. It doesn't look good when you go back and watch the replay. Belichick said something similar to what you're saying. Oh, he thought the guy had the ball, so he was trying to get him down. But no, the league is, they would suspend Ndamukong Suh for this, but the league is not going to go in and spend one of their popular rookie quarterbacks, particularly on a team like the Patriots. It's, I hate to say that the quarterbacks sometimes have a different set of rules, but they do a whole lot in this league now to protect them. So, it's hard to determine intent. But I'll just say it didn't look good from the replays I saw.
No, it didn't look good, but I have to give Jones the benefit of the doubt here because, that he was just trying to make a play because, things happen bang, bang. You don't plan out something in a split second to,
Yeah. So much just spur of the moment, as you said, everything's happening right in front of you guys in piles. You just never know what's going
on. Yeah. Twitter blows up saying Mac Jones is a dirty player and all this stuff. The Twitter mob. They just get out there. So anyways, Mac Jones a little bit under the cosh a little bit, but the league's still going to investigate. I don't think anything will happen. He wasn't even penalized. So
no, they may, if they find something that they don't like, they may give him a mediocre fine or something, but no, nothing significant's going to happen.
All right.
Well, we're moving on now to the
And it's that time of the show where we take a look at a guy that's moving on up. And my moving up guy is Donovan Peoples-Jones, speaking of the Browns. And I think obviously he scored a touchdown on Sunday. Didn't get a lot of, I think he only got 3 targets, and I think he turned them all into reception. But it wasn't a big day. But the Browns tend to be run first anyway, but I still think Donovan Peoples-Jones' value ahead for the rest of the season is looking a lot better, and especially with OBJ off the team now.
I love this pick because even if there was no connection, OBJ was still drawing targets from Baker, and so with just DPJ now left with Jarvis Landry and then the two tight ends, those are the guys that are going to get the targets. So I think you're going to see him really ascend over the next several games. He's obviously a good deep threat. I think Baker knows that.
Yeah, there's a couple of other guys. Of course, we have Rashard Higgins and this guy called Schwartz.
Yeah.
I think those are the next 2 down. So Donovan Peoples-Jones definitely rises in the pecking order there to probably the number 2.
Yeah, he does.
Who you got?
I was very intrigued yesterday after watching the Falcons play and saw Russell Gage come up with 8 targets, 7 catches after a week in which he was completely shut out, 0 targets. So after that, people sort of panicked and said, "Wait a minute! Without Calvin Ridley, this guy's supposed to be step up into a more primary spot. He got nothing." Well, he was much more involved in this sort of semi-shootout they had with the Saints. So I was really encouraged to see Gage get up to 8 targets, 7 catches. Didn't score, but was very involved in the offensive scheme, and with defenses keying on Patterson and on Pitts, I think we could see Gage have some sneaky value second half.
Yeah, that's true. And especially Pitts came out, what was it, last week, saying that he's noticing a lot more people on top of him, if I quote that right.
Exactly.
So, the teams are starting to key on him. I guess we can also, does OBJ enter the conversation here since Calvin Ridley is out,
That's a very good question. I think that what Ridley was put on the NFI list, so it's at least 2 more games that he's going to be out. I think that unless we can hear, we never will, but unless we knew something about what actually is going on with Ridley and what his plans are in terms of when he wants to or if he wants to come back. If they have any indication that Ridley wants to come back this year, they'll pass on Beckham. But if they've heard, hey, this is going to be it for me this year, they might take a shot on him.
Okay. Well, I guess it's time for
danger.
Yeah, panic button time. Ryan, Who's your panic?
Well, I think in this case, panic is a relative term, but if you invested a top 5 pick in Alvin Kamara, I think you have to be a little bit concerned with a couple things that are happening on the Saints offense. With Jameis going down, Jameis had learned to target Kamara or hand the ball to him 30 times a game. With him out of the picture, you've got either Simeon or Hill. And then you've also added Mark Ingram to the mix. And yesterday, Kamara only 13 carries and 6 targets, 19 opportunities. Ingram had 14 opportunities. So that's scary to me if you're thinking, oh, well, Kamara's going to be a 30-touch guy the rest of the year. Obviously not bailing ship on him, but if they're going to try to manage his workload the rest of the season, this Ingram situation is really going to, I think, be a problem for Kamara in the next several weeks.
Right. Yeah. I wasn't expecting that much of a workload decline, but Ingram is eating a little bit much, and in fact, Ingram is eating so much that he's almost a flex option.
Yeah, he is.
And so I wasn't expecting. I would expect him to be a flex option, but not an every week flex option. Bye week fill perhaps or something. But
he was. I was shocked when I saw last night Kamara 6 targets, Ingram 5. That's not what you expect when you have that sort of tandem at running back. You want Kamara to be getting 8 or 9 targets and Ingram to just barely be getting anything in terms of snaps, in terms of looks. But man, if they're splitting targets as well as a 13-9 share of the carries, that's troublesome for me as a Kamara owner.
Yeah, and the Saints will be doing everything they can to win. I mean, they're still contending. I mean, they're still right in the playoff mix here. So they're nearly. I mean, if it weren't for that big play down the sideline for Cordero Patterson, they'd be in this. They would have won that game.
Yep.
But, it got through, but that pass got through. Cordero Patterson, goodness sakes, where does he come from? People who picked him up got, I shouldn't be so dismissive of these things, and I wasn't like with Tajay Sharp. But anyways, I'm going back to the Falcons. But speaking of Falcons, my panic guy is Julio Jones, and the former Falcon is he's missing a lot of time, which is no good. And he just came back to the Titans, and last night, not a lot. It wasn't, the Titans, this was a very, a difficult matchup, of course, with the Rams, but the Titans basically won this on defense, but, Julio Jones, you're really not getting the value from him, and I think he's going to be a very difficult start, and he's going to be in the start-sit columns in a lot of on the sit column a lot. I think for the rest of the season, I'm a little bit concerned about Julio Jones. Not droppable, but getting hard to start there, Ryan.
Yeah, A.J. Brown tripled him up in targets yesterday. McNichols was all over the target share as well, and then they continued. I think they still rushed the ball 22, 23 times, so they're not exactly pivoting to a greater passing scheme. So yeah, with all them just sort of little injuries Jones suffers and how little he's being targeted compared to Brown, he might just belong on the bench for the time being.
Mm-hmm. And so that's our moving on up in panic section. It's time to take a look at the waivers, the waiver wire. What position should we start? Let's start with the QBs. This is the waiver wire rankings, the early rankings coming from Fantasy Pros. So every week we take a look at to see what the experts say are the top waiver grabs for this week. So let's take a look at the quarterbacks. I'm looking on here. I'm looking on this list, and by the way, you can. If you're listening on, you can just go to the website and I'll put up I have the listing up there so you can look at what we're looking at. The quarterbacks, yeah, I'm looking at Ben Roethlisberger here. I can't advise a Ben Roethlisberger pickup. I don't know about you. He just doesn't seem to be that. seem to be the guy I would be rushing out to pick up this week if I need a quarterback.
Yeah, here's how I feel about Roethlisberger. So my oldest league I play in is a home league. We have 14 teams. Everybody has a quarterback. Everybody has a backup quarterback. When the manager of the team that had Kyler realized that he was out, went to go look to see who was available. There were 2 quarterbacks available, Trevor Siemian and Ben Roethlisberger. So that's about how we feel about Ben Roethlisberger these days. He hasn't even been rosterable. He's going to have a couple of games over the course of the season. I haven't turned on the game yet tonight to see what he's doing, but boy, he just looks old. He looks lost, and they just want to give it to Najee Harris 30 times a game. So his arm is being taken out of the game plan anyway.
Yeah. What do you take away from this waiver ranking list for the QBs? It's never good anyway. We say this every week. The QBs are kind of, there isn't much to pick up for, well, at least for one quarterback league. So I guess what we're down to basically is 2 quarterback leagues. If you're in a 2 quarterback league, what do you like on this list?
Yeah, I think of the names that are popping out in front of me, again, Roethlisberger, they want to run. Mac Jones, they want to run. Taylor Heineke, boy, just started out with a couple of good games and just has been incredibly inconsistent over his past few. I think if I had to pick one, I'd go with Teddy Bridgewater against the Eagles. They've been allowing a lot of points if the team's not named the Lions. Bridgewater is an accurate quarterback, has all of his weapons back. I presume Fant will be back this week. So if I had to take a shot on one of them, it'd be Teddy. Yeah,
he's QB1, and I would put him at QB1 as well. Let's move along to the running backs this week. A lot of interest there. Of course, we talked about Benjamin a little bit. That of course depends on. I really don't see. I don't see a rush to pick out Benjamin, but I don't know. There's some other people on this list that I mean I don't like Brandon Bolden too much. But Ty Johnson's an interesting one, Ryan, at RB1.
Yeah, Ty Johnson. Now we got to monitor Tevin Coleman a little bit because I saw some news that he might be coming back to practice. So we really don't want him to come in and sort of muddy things up after they've really dedicated some specific roles to Ty Johnson and to Michael Carter. Those guys have looked good with Tevin Coleman sitting out. But that's a guy certainly I would take a look at. He seems to be very involved. He and Carter both can catch passes. He really has some juice when he gets the ball. So I do like a Ty Johnson pickup. And boy, I just hate myself for thinking this way, but I mean, we got to go back for about 5 or 6 years and consider guys like Jordan Howard and Carlos Hyde, only because they're going to get the volume, right? Where we've seen that James Robinson is likely going to be out for a bit. Saw Carlos Hyde play the second most snaps of any running back yesterday. It's just that things that if you're desperate for a player like that, you just have to suck it up and do it at this stage of the fantasy season.
Yeah. And I'll be talking about Donta Foreman. He's the RB5. I'll talk about him a little bit more later. But again, this is pretty thin. But I do like Jordan Howard, as you mentioned. I think if you're needing a running back, you can pick him up. I think he's a good, at least to stash. I mean, but he can still play the flex. I don't know, but Boston Scott is quite good, but but I don't see him on the list, so he's obviously over the threshold of what of what you can pick up, because he's obviously been, mass owned. But I mean, Miles Sanders is due back soon, isn't he?
I think he's got at least one more week, and who knows how they're going to integrate all these guys once he comes back. It was interesting to see the past 2 weeks with the Eagles games. So 2 weeks ago against the Lions, it was an absolute blowout. Jordan Howard got a ton of work. This past week against the Chargers, a very close game, back and forth game, Jordan Howard got a lot of work. So they're obviously committed to him while Sanders is out. So if you need a guy who's going to just be touching the ball, he's certainly going to be doing that. And they've shown that they're going to give him work at the goal line as well.
How deep does your league have to be to have Brandon Bolden? He's RB8.
Boy, if you are in a deep PPR league, that might be a guy you would think about, but that's going to be about it.
Yeah, right. We'll save the big one for last. Let's go to the tight ends first. why don't you go first and go through this list and take your pick? Who would you pick out of the? We've got 6 on the list this week.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to see the number 1 name on this waiver rankings list from Fantasy Pros. Logan Thomas can come back this week. Talk about how Taylor Heineke's been a little bit inconsistent, but boy, Logan Thomas was playing every snap. Had a healthy target share. We saw the past few weeks, Ricky Seals-Jones was literally playing 100% of the offensive snaps. So Thomas can come in and take that job back, and he's available in your league because somebody just had to move on, didn't have an IR spot, or just somebody rotates through their tight ends. That is certainly worth a pickup if he's available.
Yeah. I like Tyler Conklin. I think Tyler Conklin should be owned. He is 42.1% owned, so that's still he's still available in a lot of leads.
We saw yesterday in games where the Vikings get into a shootout of sorts, he's going to be involved. So I'm 100% behind that call as well.
Yeah, and I see Evan Ingram still on this list too, at tight end 4. I think he's. I think he scored, didn't he? Yeah, or was it the week before? I think it was. But
he scored 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So I still like him. I think he should be owned. I mean, he's only 33% owned, so I quite like him. Not too high on Donald Parham. I don't know how you feel about him.
He has shown some flashes, especially in the red zone, but they've not shown a willingness to play him over Jared Cook. So until that changes or something shifts there, he probably belongs on waivers until something happens to Cook.
Right. I just want to go back to the running backs for a second. Raman Ray Stevenson. I don't think we touched on him too much. Because we mentioned Brandon Bolden, but definitely Raman Ray Stevenson. I mean, this is Damian Harris's backfield now. But, I mean, I think RB3 for Ramondre Stevenson is a bit high.
Yeah, especially because I think it was the 2 weeks prior to yesterday. 1 week he was inactive. 1 week he didn't touch the ball. He didn't get onto the field. So it's just, talk about a headache. Stevenson, Bolden, Harris has got the majority, as you talked about. That's the only guy you can trust. I mean, this is just Patriots backfield that we've seen for 20 years now. If it's not the guy who is getting the looks at the goal line, then I just don't know if that's somebody you can concern yourself with. You never know if he's going to even be active from week to week.
Yeah, I will say this though. Damian Harris did something that we hadn't seen in 5 years on the Patriots. It took 5 years for a running back to have back-to-back 100-yard games.
Yeah, that's the Patriots backfield for you.
Yeah, so that does tell you something, that Damian Harris. But I think I've always kind of felt this though. I think that the Patriots. I think maybe it's getting into Belichick's idea that having a single sort of bell cow running back helps keep the rhythm for your offense, and especially a young quarterback like Mac Jones who needs a kind of a rhythm without a new running back coming up for every play. I mean, it's okay when you had Tom Brady, because Tom Brady, he can play whatever system, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been since Corey Dillon that they've had a true bell cow back, and that's just not something Belichick has shown a willingness to do. But he may realize that, okay, we got to bring Jones along somewhat slowly and give him a guy that he can trust and hand off to, and like you said, keep the ball moving down the field.
Yeah, and keeping your players on the field. Long drives help your fantasy team. We don't like 3-and-outs in fantasy. Let's go to the big. We've got 18 wide receivers. It's always a large list on the receivers list, but there's a few surprises on there. Rashad Bateman, number 1. What do you think of that? Number 1 grab.
Yeah, Bateman is an interesting case to me. Obviously, he's incredibly talented. We saw that coming out of college. His first game, I think, was 3 weeks ago when he finally got on the field, and they started him off with 6 targets. It didn't turn out to be many yards, didn't turn out to be many touchdowns since then. But they've been getting him on the field. But now he is far and away sort of taking this wide receiver 2 job. I think he ran more routes than Mark Andrews did in the last game. 8 targets yesterday. They want to get him involved. I think that they want to consider Brown just a true deep threat and put Bateman more in the middle of the field with Andrews. And since they just do not target their running backs in the passing game, Bateman to me is worth worth a speculative pickup.
Yeah, I would say so. And he does with Sammy Watkins. I don't think Sammy Watkins is coming back anytime soon. Maybe this week. I'm not sure. I'd have to check my notes, but I don't think Sammy Watkins is. I don't think he's a guy you're starting. But you're right, though. I think it. I think it hurts. I do think it hurts. Pardon me, Mark Andrews with. Takes a bit of targets away with Rashad Bateman around. And I think
they do play the similar, I think, parts of the field. They both, Bateman got 8 targets. Andrews had 9 yesterday. So, I mean, that's healthy if they can keep that up. But yesterday just turned into a true shootout and had overtime. So, that is certainly something to monitor if you have both of those guys.
Anybody on this list that intrigues you?
So we talked about Russell Gage earlier. Someone who is now seemingly involved in the offense after a week where there was nothing. Actually looking at wide receiver 4 there with Desean Jackson leaving the Rams, I think Van Jefferson is pretty much playing every stat now. Last night was a bad indication of what their offense can do, but they run a lot of 3 wide receiver sets, and Van Jefferson's going to be on the field, I think, every one of those. We've seen how prolific and explosive that offense can be. So Van Jefferson's available. Looks like he's 42% rostered right now, but if he's available, I think that's certainly somebody to throw on your bench, see what happens.
7 targets last night.
Yeah.
He's had 7, 6, and he only got 3 receptions. But he's definitely right in there in the offense. And I basically traded for Mecole or this was weeks earlier. I basically traded Van Jefferson away for Mecole Hardman. I don't think that worked out too well.
Yeah, that Chiefs offense, something's up. Something is dysfunctional there, and they got to figure that out quick.
Yeah, that's definitely another story. So, other people on this list, of course, Michael Gallup coming back at WR5. I'm kind of wondering, Cedric Wilson is playing so well. Are you really going to run out and get Michael Gallup? Is he really high? Is he really worth WR5? Is it worth a pickup?
I mean, gosh, with how much just offensive, explosive players they have on that side of the ball, it's tough to see how Gallup can separate himself at the top of that list, right? I mean, with Cooper, with Lamb, with Zeke, with Pollard, with Darwin Schultz. I mean, all these guys. And as you said, Wilson's just been playing on some amazing ball. I mean, Gallup's got the talent. I see him being worthy of somebody you have on your roster, but he's going to have to show it to me before I put him in a starting lineup anywhere.
Yeah, I really don't have room on my bench for someone like Gallup. I prefer upside players. We got some other guys down here. Can you believe that Tim Patrick, that WR8 is only 24.9% owned?
Yeah, I would have thought, especially when Judy and when Hamler both went down with injury, that he would have been all over Tim Patrick. But man, if 75% of leagues he's available, that's a grab for me. We saw him with an explosive touchdown yesterday. That's definitely a player to get.
Yeah, he's definitely he's a matchup based flex, but I mean, you kind of want a guy like that. Anybody else on this list that piques your interest here?
Well, I know this is exploring a little bit of what we'll talk about later, but I have to touch on Desean Jackson for just a second.
Sure.
Wide receiver 13 looks like he's 3% rostered right now. We know he's going to a team that just lost forever their deep threat in the Raiders. Desean Jackson is, even at his advanced NFL age, has still got speed, and we've seen that a couple times so far with the Rams. Listen, both Jackson and Ruggs are one of these 17, 18 yard A-dot guys. Ruggs was getting, a number of more targets than than Jackson was. I think Ruggs was something like 36 targets on the year. Jackson's at 15. But Jackson, when he gets these targets, I mean, his air yards, for example, in 15 targets, Desean Jackson has more air yards than Cole Beasley, who, has like 50 targets on the year. I mean, he just is getting these bombs on him. And I think that that's what they want to do, and that's why they brought him in. I think they would like him to replace Ruggs. Obviously, it's not a long-term situation like Ruggs would have been.
No.
But they need a deep threat. Carr wants a guy like that, and I'm not afraid to throw that in because they've been giving a lot of targets to their deep threat guys in Ruggs and Edwards.
Mm-hmm. So if you don't get your what you wanted in maybe other things in other waiver pickups this week, Desean Jackson is an awesome option. Trivia question: who is Desean Jackson's first quarterback?
Oh my gosh. Donovan McNabb.
Got it.
Oh, yes.
You got it. Yes, it goes all the way to Donovan McNabb.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, believe it or not. He's Donovan McNabb was his quarterback the year before McNabb left the team. That was 2008.
Oh my gosh, that guy's been around forever.
I know. He's just telling you how old he is. Speaking of oldies, Randall Cobb's kind of getting long in the tooth too, but I'm not picking him up. He's WR15. I'm not too interested in him. And that goes the same with WR18, Alan Lazard. The Packers down list receivers, they're just, and this is MVS as well, they're all of them. They just don't have that second guy, I don't think.
They really don't. I mean, when you got a guy who's getting 35 to 40% target share every game, and then now they're targeting both Dillon and Jones from the backfield, it's too unpredictable. It's too inconsistent. You never know in between Cobb, MVS, and Lazard who's going to get any sort of reasonable target share. It's just a headache I don't want, really.
All right, let's just do a quick yes and no for the rest of them we haven't talked about. Brandon Ayuk, I think a yes for me.
Yes.
Elijah Moore, maybe leaning no.
I'm leaning no if they're still committed to Zach Wilson at quarterback.
Right. Donovan Peoples-Jones, we already mentioned. Laviska Shenault, I love this player. I'm always a yes on him. If he's available, he should be picked up. He's already 52% yes for me.
Yes.
Russell Gage and Tim Patrick mentioned. T.Y. Hilton, leaning yes, but kind of iffy on him with Carson Wentz. I'm leaning yes.
I'm a yes only when he plays the Texans. Otherwise, I'm a no on T.Y. Hilton.
Jamal Agnew, no.
No.
Deontay Harris, leaning no.
No, I don't trust that offense anymore.
Yeah, and that goes the same with...
At least the passing game.
Tre'Quan Smith, leaning no.
No.
Olamide Zaccheaus, I think that's just a one-off. He's a no for me.
Yeah, all the targets are going to go to Patterson, Pitts, and Gage. I think you'd have to be a real desperate deep league to go there.
And finally, the last one is another Colt, Zack Pascal. He's a guy you pick up and stream if you need somebody. He's a spot start guy. You don't need to pick him up. He's probably going to be available anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
So that does the waivers. It's time, if we're picking up guys, we've got to drop guys, Ryan. we have to drop somebody in order to put guys in the roster. So I'm going to finally, and I own this guy, and I think he's droppable, and I hate to say, I know he scored a touchdown, but Kenneth Gainwell, the shine is gone off. I don't think there's anything you're going to see. I don't think you're going to see anything better for the rest of the season here.
Yeah, I do not understand how they are using Kenneth Gainwell less when Miles Sanders went out. I mean, I guess we haven't seen a game where they've been, trailing by 3 or 4 scores, but I just do not understand how they are utilizing him when they lost their quote unquote bell cow. It's just made no sense to me how they're using him.
Do you agree with the drop, or is he still a hold, or is he dropped? What do you think? I was kind of on the fence on this, but what do you think?
Yeah, I am walking towards the line to drop him. I'll say that.
Okay. Who are you dropping to open a spot?
I'm done with Robbie Anderson. I wrote in something this past week that we've had the Robbie Anderson funeral. It's not getting done. He continues to play a lot of snaps. He led the team in snaps yesterday. He led the team in routes run, 3 targets. I think 1 catch. He's doing nothing. I don't know if it's mental at this point or if it's just a combination of terrible quarterback play, but they are getting literally nothing out of Robbie Anderson. And to me, if I've got to move on to somebody else that can actually contribute, yes, he can make a big play. We've seen it plenty of times in the past, but if it's me, I got to move on.
Yeah, he had 3 targets, 1 catch for 2 yards.
Yeah.
Against I said that in my rest of season article, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but I said that the inflatable man at the car wash, outside the car wash, has a better chance of catching.
That's exactly what he is, flailing around doing nothing.
So I said, because he's only, I think he's got, of players of his level of targets, I think he's in around 30% catches. He's really bad.
Oh man. It's just, and I'm gonna look this up while we're talking here, but it is just unbelievable how you can go from, he's had quite a bit of production. They gave him this massive contract to stay with them, for, forget what the years were, 3 or 4 more years. And it's just been, it's been abysmal. So he is 82nd in the NFL in fantasy points per game. He is number 100 in the NFL in yards per target.
Yikes.
He is, but,
Yikes.
So again, talk about quarterback play, number 95 in target accuracy, number 93 in target quality rating. So he's getting bad passes thrown at him, but he can't catch them anyways.
Right. Spec ads. These are down listers now. These guys can be available. These guys are on the list. I think both of our guys are on the waiver list this week. My spec ad is Donta Foreman. I think the eye test told me that Donta Foreman, I think you should stash this guy. I know he got the lowest amount of carries, but he seemed to be the one that looked the most effective. He looked more effective to me than Adrian Peterson. I don't know if that's a bad thing to say, but he's a lot younger. He's only 25, and Peterson's 36. So I think you can stash Foreman. I think it's a good idea if you've got room. Stash Donta Foreman. You can't hurt. You just drop him if things don't work out.
Yeah, and this is a guy, I'm actually really rooting for this guy. He looked good on the Texans before he tore his Achilles, and he's been fighting to come back, I know, ever since. And this is a player I'm really rooting for. So I'd love for him to get a shot over a guy like AP, do a Foreman, McNichols backfield. I don't know if they will, because they probably trust the experience of somebody like Peterson, but I'm really rooting for Foreman to get more of that job, and I think he can do something with it if he has it.
Yeah. By the way, folks, he's the RB5 on the Fantasy Pros waiver ranking, so he isn't really that much of a spec ad, but he sort of is, and he sort of isn't. But obviously, people are getting interested in him because of what they saw. He did miss that tackle against Ramsey on that a bit of a gadget play.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's just it might have been a little rust. I don't know. But I still think Donta Foreman, he's definitely a spec ad. So stash him if you wish. Batter up.
All right. So, I got to go back and just mention once again my guy, Desean Jackson. I'm very curious to see what he does now in this new role with Las Vegas. Las Vegas is, I think I just checked, was 8th in the NFL in percent of plays that are passes. Jacobs and Drake have been semi-ineffective this year. They're going to get in their division, and as they fight for the playoffs, they're going to get in a lot of shootouts. So I think if I had to put a spec ad on somebody who's low rostered out there but could provide huge bang for the buck, it's going to be Jackson. Yeah,
I'm kind of glad we circled back to Jackson again, because I think it is kind of important to really emphasize the hole, the actual big hole that Henry Ruggs left.
Right.
And so for him to be WR13 is actually, in a way, I think it's kind of low.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
A
guy like Ruggs, he led the team in receiving yards more than Waller. He had 15% target share, and we talked about that 17-yard A-Dot. If they want to use him even somewhat similarly to that, then I think Jackson is a player who must roster.
Yeah, definitely a must roster. And we have actually come to the end of the show. And and I think my final thoughts is that I hope we have a better week 10 than we had at week 9. Man, wow, it was rough for a lot of teams, upsets and just craziness as we always get in fantasy football. But week 9 was definitely weird, and hopefully week 10 will be it's always going to be weird in a different way. So I hope it's going to be a lot better. You got any final thoughts?
Yeah, I echo what you said about that, brother. I know that NFL is a predictable game in a unpredictable sport, but man, I just hope with some of these players that are coming back from injury, some of the just the odd things that have happened. I mean, think about it, even from a wagering perspective, if you put money on the Bills, or just all sorts of things that happened yesterday, just unbelievably odd how that slate of games played out. So I'm looking for them to get somewhat back to normal next year. And then I think the thing I'm going to be looking at most over these next couple of days is, where does OBJ go and what does that mean for that offense?
All right. And another thing before we go is that you do the Dynasty stock up and down. What day does that come out?
Yeah, so that should be out sometime tomorrow, Tuesday. I write that on Monday evenings. Just looking at, from a dynasty perspective, a couple of guys whose stocks have gone up based on their performances, and then a couple of guys whose stocks have gone down. And we may see some of the names we talked about today make it on that list. All
right, and where can we reach you on Twitter?
Yeah, come find me on Twitter at Kirksey Sport. Happy to engage, chat, anything you'd like to do. Come find me and connect.
I am going to follow you right now.
All right.
I don't know why I hadn't followed you before. What's the matter with me? I can't keep up with this Twitter. Oh, there's new technology and all this thing. I can't keep up with it. All right. Anyway, so yeah. Check out Ryan Kirksey. Yeah, it's at Kirksey Sports. The K and S are capitalized. And you have a very lovely partner. She's very pretty. And let's see what else have we got going here. Be sure to check out my stuff. I do the rest of season rankings. They come out on Thursday. And the Blurb View. Make sure you check that out. Comes out on Friday night with all the games, players, announcers, a whole bunch of stuff, the weather, everything you want to check out. The Blurb View that comes out on Friday night. So thanks for joining us on the Fantasy Edge. We'll see you again next week for week 11. Take care, everybody, and thank you for joining us on the Fantasy Edge.